literally murdered Abiola. Who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Legally Speaking on SpectrumTv and Planet Radio 101.1 FM. My name is Anthony Ebuk. I'm a law partner and associate legal practitioner, and the show begins now. We're discussing today on three very poignant issues. One is the breaking news that the Kano State Governor has been removed from office by the Court of Appeal, and that's the final court for Election Petition Tribunal. And the APC candidate has been asked to take over the mantle of leadership. Secondly, we also look at the issue surrounding Adeleke's suspension or removal, as we would say, of the state chief judge. Does he have the powers to do that? Some people want to ask, can the state governor and the House of Assembly arrange and get the chief judge of the state removed from office? Well, if you call it arrangement, if you call it following the due process of the law, we will look at it as it unfolds on Legally Speaking today. Then we will look at a public interest story, the story or the law that prohibits street begging and hawking. I know several states have passed it. Kaduna State was in 2016, and Lagos State is at the verge of reactivating theirs to promote what they call peace or security in the state and avoid defacing the ambience of Lagos State. All right, that's and a lot of other things that we'll be discussing, and we'll open the phone lines from 6:30, where listeners will be free to call in. 5:30, sorry. All right, I have with me in the studio to discuss this Etini Basi. Etini Basi is a legal practitioner, also a law partner. Etini, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's fly. Etini, we start with the story of the removal of the chief judge of Ogun State, Adeleke. We have a background to that.
Oh yes, the chief judge, the sitting chief judge in Ogun State, has been removed by the governor of Ogun State on allegations of gross misconduct and misuse of office by the chief judge, and then another person has been asked to take over the position pending the final investigation of the chief judge.
Okay. Now, it's a bit scary when you get to understand that the governor has sacked, well, from what they say, sacked the chief judge at Adepele as Justice Adepele, and has sworn in the most senior judge of the state's High Court of His Lordship Afolabi. Now, one would have thought that the office of the chief judge or the office of the is sacred, right? That it's insulated from politics. So whatever happens in the political scheme of things, it ordinarily would not affect what happens with the judiciary itself. Okay. Now, what's your impression?
Yes, normally, constitutionally, the chief judge of a state is appointed by the governor of that state.
Okay.
Through the the State House of Assembly would
Okay.
have to make a vote, two-third majority vote in the House of Assembly to validate that appointment. They have to approve the appointment, and the State House of Assembly has to approve that appointment. And also, on the other hand, the governor of a state, it is within his powers, subject to the approval of the State House of Assembly, to remove a chief judge from its position. Now, to remove a chief judge from his position, it has to be on grounds of gross misconduct, grounds of misuse or abuse of office, judge. Yes. So it's not entirely out of place for the governor of Ogun State to do that.
Now, normally one would say that there are provisions for removals even of a chief judge,
Yes.
or any judge for that matter, where there is gross allegation of gross misconduct or abuse of power, of incapacitation to function. The House of Assembly can recommend the removal from office, or the chief judge, the governor can recommend, if there are petitions, that further investigation be carried out, and before the investigations are carried through, he has to step down. Now, this is the picture that has played out. There has been a recommendation, and the governor has affirmed that recommendation and has sworn in the acting chief judge of the state. And then again, he's asked a panel to be set up, and letters have been written to NJC notifying them of the position of things. That appears on the surface to be fulfilling the law. But what if that is not, the effort is not fulfilling the law?
Why the what if?
Yes, because we have seen deputy governors being removed from office for nothing. And they branded gross misconduct. And one would say, okay,
he's not removed from office.
He said in politics, you could say, yes, gross misconduct, it can fly. But in this case, if the
investigation turns out to be
what
false,
happens if the investigation turns out to be false? One, it has shaken the integrity of and the confidence of the chief judge of that state.
No, it's due process.
Yeah, before due process, if you recall, I have seen online that what happened was that the governor, the chief judge, knew he was about to get him out of the place.
No, I saw something like that also.
And she ran to the industrial court, got an injunction restraining them. You know, and I'm like, okay, why do you have to go to industrial court? Is it a labor dispute? Yes. Because industrial court manages labor dispute. If it is an official, in the official capacity as a judge, are you looking at the governor as your employer? So it becomes an employer-employee relationship. That's where I queried, why the industrial court? That's what my mind was asking. Why would you go to industrial court to obtain an order restraining the governor and the House of Assembly from exercising what would be their constitutional roles and duty? Okay? That's just my take. Is it right for her to have gone, for Milord to have gone to the industrial court? Whether it was right or wrong, the important thing is that there was an order of court staying that action.
So you should have been stopped.
The chief judge should not have been removed pending that order of court, right? So I am a bit concerned at the spate of disobedience to court orders. The courts are not listening to themselves. The litigants are not listening. The government is not listening. What is going on in the judicial system in Nigeria? So those are the issues that will play out eventually. Yes, the NJC has been notified, because in the end the ball stops at the table of the NJC. What is the investigation saying? Can we truly say this was gross misconduct? It's not like the deputy governors that have been tossed in and out of offices by the mere allegation that it's been gross misconduct, and the chief judge will have to set up a panel. In this case, the NJC will have to set that panel to determine whether there was gross misconduct in the activities of the chief judge of the state. All right, so we will come back to that story, but let's swing over to the breaking news. The governor of Kano State has been removed from office. Now, I recall that when we started out this year, and we had a lot of issues bordering around election petition panels, one of the things we said, one of the things people said and some people called in to say was that election petition is a waste of time. Why do you go to election petition when the incumbent has been sworn in? Now, this is a situation where the incumbent was sworn in, he's been in power for a while, and has been removed he was removed by the tribunal, and the Court of Appeal, which is the final court of election petition, has affirmed that position. And the governor has ceased to be the governor of the state. Not because he did not win the election, but because, according to the courts, because he was not duly nominated by the party. He wasn't a member of that party as at the time he was nominated. So let me hear from you. Let's have your impressions on that.
Well, I won't say it's the first time, but it's actually nice to hear the court.
Can you imagine? You're saying it's nice that the court has removed somebody from office.
No, it's actually nice to hear the court depart from the normal workings.
What seems to be a normal thing?
Okay, someone goes to court, someone makes a petition in court that he did not win an election. At the end of the day, at the lower courts, it's the same thing. Court of Appeal, the same thing, and up to the Supreme Court is the same thing. He will not be made the winner of that election. Instead, another person that has been there would be affirmed as the winner of that election, and he continues in office. So this is a departing from what we have normally seen, and it's actually nice to see, because from what the court has said, the sitting governor, soon to be the ex-governor,
was he actually ex? Would they say he was really elected in the first place? Because the law might not see him as duly elected.
It doesn't matter. He's a governor.
So he cannot fall into the category of ex-governors, because he was not elected in office. He was just holding forth. So Abba Yusuf cannot be seen as an ex-governor of the state, because the ex-governor means you have governed the state rightfully for a period of time to a period of time. Remember what happened in the court removed the governor in Rivers State, and Wike came in and said he's an ex-governor, when the law is very clear that these persons cannot be called or referred to as ex-governors. They got into that office, I wouldn't use the word fraudulently, but they didn't get into that office rightfully.
Oh, they were still governors.
Does it really say so?
They were still governors.
No, they weren't governors. They sat in that chair for a while, having been sworn in not rightfully. Now the court has said, let the right person be sworn in properly. Okay? But yet, I have a wonder. The grounds that he's been removed from office borders around the fact that he was not a member of the party at the time of his nomination.
Okay.
And we've had series of judgments around those calls, or whether or not one was a member of a political party. I have not read the facts. I must confess that I have not read the facts of his events leading to his removal. But I know that what quickly would come to mind is that this person has been claimed not to be a member of the political party. I have not seen the parties to that suit, so I'm not sure who went to court, if it was the winner or a member of their political party that are going to court, because now it's APC that will declare the winner of that election against NNPP, right?
Yes.
NNPP, yes.
New Nigerian
People's Party. Now, the NNPP harvested a candidate and foisted him. I know that in some rulings, the court would say it's an intra-party affair. If the party had waived the need for a 30-day period before you can be claimed to be a member of that political party. So those are the legal issues that are springing up from that.
Yes, but we've not seen the suits actually to know who are the parties. Because if it's the newly declared governor, that would be a very different issue entirely. Because the issue of nomination, the issue of being a member of a political party at the time of nomination, I think it resides mostly, it's a pre-election matter, right? It's a pre-election matter. It's what you decide at the party level before the main elections.
Okay.
So we need to know the parties to that particular suit before you can move on from there.
Yes, but you see, the former, it's not the first time. One should really expect Nigerians to celebrate this judgment, but I'm not sure a lot of people will celebrate. When I read this post this morning, the governor sued for calm. And as if, okay, as at yesterday, he addressed the state, sued for calm. Whatever the outcome of that election will be, there should be no rancor and things like that. It's almost like he expected that the Court of Appeal will affirm the decision of the Election Petition Tribunal. And it's a bit worrisome when you know this is what is going to happen, and you still go ahead and challenge to the end.
They have a right to challenge.
Recall that Peter Obi had that same position before now. He got his ticket from the court. He went in there, he was impeached, he went back to court, got his right back. So the judiciary in Nigeria seems to be doing well. Would you agree with me?
Is that sarcastic?
No. Let's see. Because my impression is that the judiciary is doing well. Because every case has its own peculiarities. So if you are not following the law the way it ought to be, and you expect that, okay, because it had happened for Kano State, Kaduna State should also set aside. I know that, I think, was it one of these states, Plateau, all these Middle states also had election petition to be decided today, which bordered around the governorship. And I think the court affirmed the incumbent as a governor. But the Kano State has been removed.
The judiciary is doing well, actually.
Can you explain how you feel?
Yeah, because do you think it's easy to sit down and then review? You know, they have how many days period to conclude a tribunal sitting. So it's not easy for the judges to sit over those matters within that short time, and then at the end of the day, within 180 days, still deliver judgments within that 180 days. It's not easy, because they have to look at the facts, they have to look at everything to be able to come to the right conclusion. Now, if you want to go to court, you have to go to court with all facts and evidence available for the court to be able to decide on who the matter is to be against, or who the matter will in the future favor at the decision stage. So if you have to go to court, you go prepared. The court will not just decide on matters from air or from social media. They decide on the facts before you. So the courts are trying.
Yeah, I want to agree
with
with you that the judiciary has done well, and not necessarily because of the workload they have. They signed up for that workload, and it's increasing by the day. But you see, the perception, a lot of people have had very erroneous perception that the incumbents usually try to entice decisions to their favor by gratifying the judges sitting over election petition matters. So it's difficult for an outsider to upturn the status quo. But looking at the way some of these judgments have come, a lot of them at the lower court get thrown out, senatorial seats, House of Representatives seats, House of Assembly seats, and when they get to Court of Appeal or Supreme Court, decisions are different. You know, not necessarily saying that he bought one, he didn't buy the other. But each of them would review their cases on its merits. And you get to see that, okay, this is the reason one court decides for this. And this other court departed from the position of the initial court and had its own peculiar reasoning. And when you are able to sit to read it, you appreciate the industry and the logic behind the decisions. Unfortunately, Nigerians don't get to. They don't follow the process. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go on a short breakdown. When we come back, I think we'll start with the story about the appointment of judges to the Supreme Court. We'll look at that briefly before we go into the final story of the day. So the short break beckons.
Police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
All right, welcome back to Legally Speaking on Planet Radio 101.1 FM and SpectrumTv on Star Times and free 2A stations. My name is still Anthony Ebuk and I'm with the Tinibasi. All right, when we went on the break, we agreed that we'll start up with the story about the appointment or nomination for appointment of justices to the Supreme Court. And we also said the phone lines will be open from now, so you could contribute either with the former stories or the new ones that we are bringing on board. The numbers to call will be 090-222-31011. The other number will be 070-454-17707. I repeat those numbers, 090-222-31011. The alternative number will be 070-454-17707. We keep repeating these numbers from time to time in case you didn't get them at the first call. All right, the NJC, that's the National Judicial Council, is purported to have published names of nominated, about 22 nominees to fill spaces that have opened up in the Supreme Court. I'm sure you've bumped into that list. And what would you say, what have you noticed on those lists?
Yes, it's a welcome development because the Supreme Court, there were so many vacant seats before now. There was a lacuna at the Supreme Court. So it's a welcome development that justices are appointed to that level to seats. It's actually,
I think the law provides for about 22 members of the bench of the Supreme Court, and right now we have less than 9, about 9.
Yeah, I think it's lesser.
It's less than 10.
Yes,
Okay. My the court will say, the judge will say, you cannot say less than 9. He say half human being. So, but we don't have up to 10 justices sitting right now. A lot of them have retired. Some have left by way of death, and those regions where we don't have judges, the full complement of justices represented, needs to fill up those spaces. The lists have been flying around, and unfortunately, just as we're beginning to celebrate that, okay, something is moving from that axis of the justice. Because when you have full panels, you could sit on several matters. But when you are limited with 10, that means you can only say 2 or 3 panels at a time. Yes. When it's a panel of 7, there are only 2 people outstanding that will not sit on the panel. So you would have wanted to say two separate panels of 7 justices to sit on different matters, which would facilitate the speedy dispensation of justice. But now you're limited to just 1 panel sitting for the whole of Nigeria. That's 1 full panel sitting for the whole of Nigeria. All the cases that are coming in. So because some criminal matters where especially death sentencing, you need to have the full panel of Supreme Court seats for that decision to be made. So some matters suffer because when a panel has been set and 1 or 2 members of that panel is absent due to ill health or other engagements, the limitation shows glaringly and the frustration is obvious.
Yeah, and the long judicial process begins because I think a lot of cases are still in the Supreme Court. Some of them have not even been heard.
Yes, and some of them don't even have listing. I'm sure some cases will be listed for 2030, and this is just 2024. Now, I asked if you had noticed something. Over time, there was this move to introduce members of the bar straight to the Supreme Court. Some deserving senior advocates, which they believe have practiced, and they found them worthy in terms of reasoning and character to sit on the bench of the Supreme Court. And there were calls for application from senior advocates of Nigeria. There were also calls for application from the teachers, there's academia, all right? Now, the list does not reflect any of such innovations as was thought out by. Did you notice that?
Yes, I did. There's been so many comments on that.
And what do you think? Where do you fly?
To me, I think going up to that level of being a Supreme Court justice should be based on experience. To me, it should grow as a judge or from a magistrate as a judge and then to a justice. It should grow to that point because it needs experience. It needs experience because you cannot just, you have to know what you are doing in that place. And then on the other hand, there are other people who have been in practice for a very long time. And then there are people who have studied, like the professors, people in academia, who have studied to know what is actually done there. So I think an opportunity should be given to maybe 1 or 2 of them. It doesn't have to be much.
Well,
maybe just 1 or 2 of them.
I've always had issues with this quota system. When you say, okay, since he's a professor, so that at least to satisfy that angle of the bar.
I'm talking in terms of trial.
So let's give them an opportunity. I have been in court where serious professors, silk professors, appeared in court and they were talking off points throughout.
That's what I'm saying.
You know why? You know why? Because what they know is substantive law. As professors that are not in practice, it is difficult for them to appreciate the law as it is. They appreciate the law as it ought to be, which is what they read in the book. That's professors.
What are we saying?
A senior advocate of Nigeria duly practicing, because I know a lot of senior advocates that are made ASNs, not because they have duly practiced, but because they have the facilities to promote their elevation. Facilities, no, yes, practice. No, there are facilities which includes, amongst others, well-furnished offices with libraries and a team of staff who are the ones generating the brief for him to endorse and adopt. So you hire such people into the offices, you still have problems. Okay? I also do not want to agree that there must be a generational growth from magistracy to the High Court. That doesn't really form enough experience, because most times, at the end of the day, the judges write what the lawyers argue, and they fall back on one side of the argument or the other, having regards to what they have seen before. Okay? So, in either way, I'm not supporting any side. I'm just hoping that we'll have a bench that works. So the numbers to call is still 090-222-31011. The alternative number will be 070-454-17707. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening. You're welcome to Legally Speaking.
My name is Titus. I'm calling from Uyo.
Titus, you're calling from Uyo. Go on, sir.
You made mention of judiciary being doing well. So I have a question to ask about it concerning what is going on in Plateau State.
Plateau State,
We
okay.
are some certain panel of judiciary panel of this thing have confirmed some, especially the governor himself, of being duly elected. And some senators are Federal House of Rep are disqualified.
Okay.
On the basis that is to obey court order. They did not conduct their primary and went ahead to bring out their members of who we're going to represent them. So the judiciary make mention of that as long as that is concerned, that PDP are not existing in that state. So they start many of their lawmakers taking to the appeal courts. So now they affirm the governors. I want to know which power did they then derive to affirm the governor or also disqualify some certain member of the country, the petitioner. So I want to talk about also concerning what happened in 2019 that brought to this current governor of Imo State, Bodo Zodema, as being governor for Imo State that time. Because that Supreme Court made mention of Ushenwosu, the candidate of AA, that the man contested under two political parties, AA and APC. So therefore, because of that, they disqualified him. So they made mention that he contested under political party. So I want to know which political party did they affirm the current governor who opposed them. Did the APC present two people in the same election or what? I also want to ask about what go on in Yobe State. That brought Ahmed Lawan, currently a senator now, from Yobe State. Because the man went and contested presidential election with this current president now, and lost. And before he went there, the primary election of the senatorial zone, in his senatorial zone, had been concluded, and the winners emerged. So which time did he buy the ticket and did he participate in the primary that make him become a candidate of the party? And the Supreme Court says that the party is the final alpha and omega in determining who takes their ticket. So can somebody go to the party go to Sambisa and Forest and bring her to Shekarao and give him ticket of a party and present the candidate, the Shekarao as a candidate, which has going through process, because in every election there is a process before a candidate emerge. So which judgment that brought that Ahmed Lawan as a senator, where the Supreme Court have the power to do so. And I also want to ask, please don't get annoyed. They say judiciary can interpret the law of the lawmaker. How can you interpret somebody's mind when you did not really know the intention of that person to make that law that is interpreted? Which way did you know the intention of that person that makes you interpret that law that he has passed on? So I want to know all this. This is my take.
Can you tell Titus? Okay, all right. Mr. Titus, I will attempt to answer. How many? 15 questions? About 16 questions. I will attempt to answer them. But I don't think I will take all of them, because if you had one question, it would have been easy to cram down. But I'll make an effort. Thank you for calling. All right. You see, the truth is this. When people don't understand the resolution of the courts, they tend to mix up issues. Okay, how come this person contested election, and at the end of the day, the Supreme Court said this? Did you read the decision of that court to know if the matter was struck out and the other person affirmed because the other party did not bring evidence? These things happen. It's not what you see in the field that happens in court. All right? For instance, the Hobuzorim mass case that everybody keeps going after. Hobuzorim mass case was, from what I read, I wasn't in court on the day, but from what I read, there was a disqualification of his votes, cancellation of some of his votes. And part of his prayers was court. Calculate that votes. Hello.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Welcome to the show.
This is Comrade Ebon calling from Abak.
Comrade Ebon from Abak. Go on, sir.
Yes, sir. Please, I need answer for what is happening in Kano State. Who is the authentic governor now, as the Court of Appeal affirmed the other man?
The Court of Appeal.
Give answer so that we clear.
The Court of Appeal affirmed, or did not affirm the former governor, but rather said he wasn't qualified to contest the election. So the APC person has taken over. I think he had a second highest number of votes. He is now the new governor of the state. Ebon, thank you very much, sir. So, like I said, it's a simple case of Hobuzorim that was fought, saying there was a section of my votes that were not counted. INEC cancelled those votes. INEC had no powers. Hello, good evening.
Yes. My name is David Royson.
Okay.
I want to ask.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Uyo.
Uyo, go on, sir.
All right. I want to ask, what are the offenses that constitute misconduct, which warrants either impeachment or suspension of any public order, example, governor or speaker?
Okay. Very simply, would say any offense that breaches the Constitution, because a governor or speaker swears to uphold the position of the Constitution. So when you run foul of the Constitution, is deemed to have been gross misconduct. And the determining factor, to a large extent, is in the hands of the members of the state or national assembly. If they regard that offense as being a gross misconduct, like nudity or things that bring shame to the office, they can say, well, it's good enough for him to leave the office. Thank you. All right, so like I said, the court now said, count the votes, he said, were cancelled illegally. When they counted the votes, he simply added up and made him the first. So it's not about saying he was fourth. They should have given that position to the second person or the third person. Why did they give it to him? No, there was a peculiarity that people always omit. That peculiarity is that there were some votes that were not counted. When those votes were counted, that section that was disqualified, Hobuzorim now had the highest number of votes. That's how he became governor. So it's not a case of the first person being disqualified, the second person ought to have taken over. No. It's a case of the fourth person having the highest number of votes when his council votes were qualified. Hello.
I don't even understand what you say.
Okay. Yes, I'm listening to you.
Hello.
Yes, I'm listening to you. Go on.
Please, Titus is calling again.
Okay, Titus.
He made mention of him, the vote that he does not tally with what INEC declared. the court has already said that APC, the candidate for APC in that election is Ushenwosu. The same court also said candidate of AA in that election is Ushenwosu. That Ushenwosu participated in two political parties to contest one election. So therefore, they disqualify the man. How come this man can become another candidate of this state political party that is disqualified the other one because of? What about illegally counting that so-called 340,000 votes that he claimed that they had, that may count for him? How can I conduct election? It is only two political parties that participated in that election, because that judgment affirmed that it is only PDP and APC that participated in that electoral zone that brought that judgment.
Well, Titus,
So
Titus, I wish you had read that judgment, because you are talking from speculation. Okay?
I see that the Supreme Court confirmed that Ushenwosu is a candidate of APC in that election. And also candidate of AA.
No, I'm not sure that is what you read. The court could say that you bought ticket and contested under two platforms. One shows that you were contesting under APC. Then you suddenly switched to be candidate for AA. All right?
AA and APC. That is participated in two political parties.
Yes, it participated in two political parties primaries.
Not about primary. The candidate, they affirm him.
Okay, thank you, Titus. Yes, thank you, Titus. But that was a position of the law, and we can't argue about that right now. It will not help us in the course of the events, right? Thank you very much for your lively conversation. All right, so because time is winding down, the Kaduna State had passed a law in 2016 banning street hawking and begging, right? And having done that, I think other states, including Lagos, also had laws against street hawking and begging. And their justification is that, for instance, Lagos is trying to activate. Hello, welcome to the show. All right, we lost that. Now, their contention, for instance, in Lagos State, the Commissioner for Environment recently said that it defaces the image of the state as a smart city, right? And it also tell us what it does.
It also poses security threats to the state. Yes.
Okay. Now, they are beggars.
Yes.
And beggars, like you're a Christian, right?
Of course.
The Bible says the poor you always have with you.
Yes.
That means people will still beg from time to time.
Yes.
But now the state is trying to bring laws to curb begging. Are we saying begging is good? No, we are not saying begging is good. But maybe the question we are asking. All right, Prince, where are you calling from?
I'm here to ask about...
Hello, Prince. Mr. Prince? Mr. Prince is a... All right, so please, Prince, you can call back. We still have time to pick your call. So the question now that arises is whether or not the law has taken into consideration the mind of the people. Because when you are making laws, sometimes you have to consider the position, the social position of the people you're making laws for. Is the state more concerned about the aesthetics? Or we are a smart city. The world sees us as a smart city. We shouldn't have people begging.
There's also a security trait.
Yeah, but there's a cosmetic aspect of it that I'm not very comfortable with. So what people would see us as nice people, if there are security issues, and you want people to see you as nice people, why don't you address the roots of the problem?
I think I understand the Lagos state government very, very well. Now, these beggars, have, I don't know, I would say flooded the cities. You see them at strategic points in the city. They send out children 3-4 years to beg, and those children would emotionally blackmail you to give them money. If you don't have money, they will cry, hang on your clothes, go after you. Some will even scream and embarrass you on the road. That's what we are talking about.
Yes. So the government now says it's an illegality for you to have children, which is not a problem, which is not untrue, right? But what has any government ever done about it from time immemorial, where they keep making these laws of wanting to have smart cities? Do you want to pack them and lock them up and feed them? Good for them. If the government is planning that, okay, we'll arrest the children and their parents, lock them up somewhere, ensure that they are being fed 3 times a day until they have work to do and leave this off the street. But when you are just telling them, shoo.
Oh, the government has said these children they are free and compulsory education around.
Where?
We have, do we not have them in Uyo? Yes, free and compulsory
you passed that law?
But it's there in the Child Rights Act.
No, I'm talking about, see, when you say free and compulsory education, it doesn't solve the hunger issue. So you are subsidizing education for the child that needs to eat and live first. So you say bring the child
to do empowerment for their parents.
So you say bring the child to school. We will feed the child. All of them will go to school.
Yes, they did do that. I think in the last last administration.
On paper.
No, not on paper.
I have a primary school beside my house.
It can't be on paper.
I didn't see any feeding.
No, it was in Akwa Ibom actually.
Yes.
They
For how
employ
long?
women to cook and they serve the
For how
children
long?
every day.
Oh,
yes.
I like
every
it.
day.
Anyway, I'm not sure that happened. But what I'm trying to say is this. Yes, there is that law. Okay? But how do you enforce that law? Because enforcement of that law means you're going to arrest people and incarcerate them. I watched a video recently where a boy ran to the police station and said, please arrest my father. Come and arrest my father. Come and arrest my father. He must be arrested. And the police thought there was something bad the father had done. When they arrested him, he found out that the boy was worried. He saw on TV that people were being fed in prisons 3 times a day free of charge. He said, please arrest my father so that he will go eat.
Is that even a real
that he's not
situation?
eating. He has no food to eat. So when you arrest people that are begging because you don't want them to beg, then you must make provision for them to eat where they are going to. And they will come and sit down there and be eating. All right? So that's my concern, okay? That's basically my concern. So let's also review. But before we go, I want to appreciate the questions that came in and to say that when you hear there's a judgment here and a judgment there, sometimes you might need to understand the rationale why one judgment was different from the other when the facts were similar. Because sometimes similar facts don't necessarily mean they are the same that we present as presented before the court. It could be a presentation that sounds like the same thing, but it's definitely different when you look at the court records. Oh, this man didn't go to school. Everybody knows he didn't go to school, but that fact is not before the court. There's a document that says he went to school and it has not been disputed. Okay? But outside that court room, everybody says there's no documents before the court. So when this happens, I recommend most times that people get to see the facts that were presented before each of those courts. That will be the size of Legally Speaking today. I really appreciate you, Etini Pasi, for being around and always being around. And for my listening audience who've taken time out to call. The man that called and asked 16 questions. Sorry, sometimes when the questions are so many, you forget where you start and where you end. But I think we've done justice to some of them. But we'll be back same time next week. So you can bring on your questions. No question in law is stale. As long as the questions are life law, legal questions, we attempt to answer them here. So until same time next week, when we meet again, I believe everything you do will be legal.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my Lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my Lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.